This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Friday, June the 3rd, 2022. We're so glad you could join us. Coming up in today's show, I'll be visiting again with Jason Foley of Honey Hollow Apiary Gardens as we actually dive into the relationship between pollinators and agriculture, a relationship that's been strained over the past few years. We talk about where things were, where they've come so far, and where Foley believes they can still go in the future to help protect not only the bees, but our crops as well. We'll also look at our ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down those markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. All right, well, we're at the end of the trading day here on Friday, and we're talking right now with Bill Biedermann of agmarket.net. Bill, how did we end up today?
Well, Dustin, we ended up the week on a soft note, which was kind of expected because we're really in that time frame where it's, okay, we got the crop planted. I didn't think you guys ever would. I hear it's growing. I'm getting pictures. I didn't think it would ever grow. So we're seeing, some what we typically call a, oh my God, we got it planted sell-off. And it happens nearly every year. And we ended up near the low end of the week. These corn settled out at 689.5, down 4 3/4 going into the close. That was pushing down towards Thursday's low price. We did get lower than that on Wednesday. We got all the way down to 682. So, that's our first level of support. And then below that, we could go into that 660 mark, which would really offer people who need to buy grain and offset risk for summer weather a great opportunity.
And so, and was that across the board in corn and soybeans that we saw that kind of reaction?
Yes, and the November soybeans, now they were pretty strong during the week because July was leading the way. We saw a huge basis strength. We saw $18 beans get traded in the cash, $17 futures price on July. That helped the November stay up in the range of about $15.33 on average for the week. On the close of Friday, we closed at $15.26 3/4, just below the midpoint of the week. And not even at the low end of the week being closer to $15. So it wasn't a bad close in November beans. We'll just have to see what technically they want to do next week.
So outside of, where things are with planting and everything, what other factors are out there in the market right now that's influencing the grains?
Well, the wheat market is getting pushed lower by a lot of fund liquidation ahead of talks internationally that will take place over the weekend about getting some shipments out of Ukraine. We're not real hopeful that that's going to happen. So we believe that in the long run, the wheat sell-off is just going to create a great opportunity for some people that need to get some coverage put back on. Support in wheat is at $11 across the board. In Kansas City and $10 in Chicago. So we'll see if those areas hold. The other things, and of course that same news is what helped put pressure on the corn market. But there were also stories, again, out of India. We're going to export. We're not going to export. We're going to export. And the same back and forth on the Russians really took a toll on people's patience of holding positions when there's pretty benign weather out there. And it's going to remain there just isn't going to be a weather threat for at least another 2 weeks.
So looking at, the other side of it, as you mentioned, it's a great time for those who are needing to purchase grain. And I know livestock is one of those sectors that obviously needs it. What happened on that front with the cattle and the hogs today? Yeah,
so we believe that the livestock markets have put in some pretty significant bottoms. The reason that we've been selling off since really the very end of April, beginning of May, was because we just had buku tonnage of meat coming into into packers. We saw a lot of cow liquidation. We saw a lot of pairs being sold down in Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas with the drought. I really feel bad for those producers because it wasn't 2 weeks after they sold them and puked them out at the auction that we started getting rain and their conditions started to improve. So, it just seems to be the way it works, right? So that extra tonnage had to work through the system. We believe it has worked through the system. So this week we saw a significant reversal in technicals on the fat cattle, and the feeder cattle really significant. I mean, we started selling off down towards 172 and we ended the week out at 179. So a very strong performance in the feeders.
All right. Well, if folks out there want to look at what's going on right now, maybe make some adjustments to their marketing plan, Bill, what's the best way to get in touch with agmarket.net?
Yeah, just you can look us up on agmarket.net and just sign up for our research. We got a free 30-day trial going. It ain't going to cost anything. The most popular things are our videos, and so I would suggest looking at those, or give us a call at 844-4AG-MARKET.
All right, Bill. Well, thanks so much for the insight, and we'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks, Dustin. Have a good weekend.
And that, again, was Bill Biedermann of agmarket.net. Let's take a look at how the market's finished, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. July corn is down 3 1/4 at 7.27 even. December closed down 4 1/4 at 6.90 even. July soybeans down 31.5 at 16.97 3/4. November down 14 3/4 at 15.27. Soy meal down $7.40 at 4.01 even. Soy oil down 4 cents at 79.52. Chicago wheat down 18 cents at 10.51 3/4. Minneapolis down 8 at 11.93 1/2. Kansas wheat down 22 at 11.28 1/4. September oats up 5.5 at 6.36 3/4. August live cattle down 27 cents at 133.85. August feeders up 92 cents at 173.87. June lean hogs up 15 cents at 110.20. Pork cutouts down 47 cents at 114.02. Class 3 milk up a nickel at 24.37. And that's been a check of your ag market recap. We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association, and the soy checkoff. And when we come back, we head back to the hives of Indianola to talk about bees. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AM PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Last week, I had the chance to visit Honey Hollow Apiary Gardens in Indianola, and I talked with Jason Foley, who is the president of the Iowa Honey Producers Association, about their business and the association. But we also talked about the relationship between agriculture and honeybees. Pollinators has been a hot topic with agriculture in the last few years, and we talked about where things are and where things could possibly still go for the benefit of both parties. For the past few years, we've been talking about the use of insecticides in agriculture and the effect it's having on the pollinators that are dependent on the ecosystem. Sometimes the discussions were heated, and sometimes the discussions were only inclusive to one side of the argument. Putting supercharged emotions to one side, what's been learned about the situation? What can be done to protect bees and give farmers the tools they need to be able to protect their crops? Last week, I visited the Honey Hollow Apiary Gardens outside Indianola, and that's where I met Iowa Honey Producers Association President Jason Foley. And here's the discussion we had about where things hit a bumpy road between pollinators and agriculture, but where he also sees improvement and where things can go in the future. So I know you mentioned, the agriculture area, and that's been a big topic because, obviously farmers are trying to protect their crops, but obviously it's having a bigger toll, on nature and stuff. I mean, what do you see, or what kind of message can we send to farmers that say, hey, what can we do to help alleviate that, where we can still protect the crops, still keep the, raising the food, but yet protect the bees as much as we can?
It's a real tough one to argue and stuff. Corn does not need bees at all for producing its stuff. In fact, corn pollen has such a low nutritional content on it. Honeybees won't hit normal seed corn and normal feed corn at all. They will hit sweet corn for some reason.
Okay.
And then they'll hit some of those ornamental types, but the stuff that we actually grow here in mass bulk in Iowa, bees won't even touch.
Okay.
However, the pollen is airborne and bees are statically charged, so they unfortunately incur problems by just picking up the pollen on them.
Okay.
Grow up inside the plant.
Right.
Unfortunately, those neonics are also expressed in the pollen of the plant. And so if bees are near corn, no beekeeper really likes to keep his bees right near corn or
Right.
soybeans. Soybeans can be okay because they don't produce near as much pollen, and actually having bees on soybeans in bloom, you will actually get a higher yield because they can help soybeans go ahead and pollinate. Even though soybeans
Okay.
are self-pollinating, the bees are visiting them, they're collecting pollen, and bees are the only insect out there that when they leave the hive in the morning and they visit a blossom off of some plant, that's the only type of blossom they're going to visit all day long. Now, yeah, there's 80,000 of them leaving the colony. Okay, that's a little high. There's 40 to 50,000 of them leaving the colony out of a total of 80,000 living in the colony. But, you know, Susie over here stops at that soybean plant, and she's only going to visit soybean the rest of the day, so she helps get a bigger yield of soybean.
Okay.
So even in that aspect, she's helping out. Now, her friend Jill, she went to, it's the wrong time of year for that. She went to a clover blossom. She's only going to visit clover the rest of the day because it does not help sharing clover pollen onto soybean. It doesn't produce soybeans.
Right.
You need soybean on soybean. And that's where honeybees are the most efficient pollinator in the animal kingdom. Now, some people will say bumblebees do a better job, but that's organism specific. So like with tomatoes, bees can't really get up inside of a tomato blossom. Bumblebees have a longer tongue and they actually vibrate their bodies when they touch a tomato plant and they knock pollen out of it.
Okay.
And that's how they're a better pollinator of a specific crop. But any crop that bees can actually get their tongue inside and feed off of, they are the most ideal pollinator out there because bumblebees don't do that trick of only going to tomatoes. If they visit tomatoes, they'll also go to dandelions, they'll also go to clover, they'll also go to black lotus and everything else that's out there. Locust, sorry. They'll visit everything they want to, and hopefully you just get a cocktail of the right pollen that helps out the plants out there.
Okay.
The industry has already taken steps where instead of having neonics last in the soil up to 7 years, which is what the first ones were, the components wouldn't break down in soil for up to 7 years. So even though they were coating the kernels in the neonics, you had residuals in the ground that also were coming up in the plant and giving a higher and higher dose. So by year 7, you had a huge dose of neonicotinoids coming up in the plants, being expressed in the pollen. And unfortunately, neonics are a chemical that can bind with beeswax. So the bees are bringing it back, and it gets in higher and higher concentrations over the years in the beeswax. So you're turning over multiple folds of the nasty chemical.
Okay.
So when they tested neonics the first year with honeybees, no, it didn't kill them off because it was only giving them a 1-year exposure, and it was just a light dose because it also was clean in the ground and everything else. Well, subsequent years we found out after neonics were legalized and put out there, it actually had a huge dramatic effect on honeybees. So the chemical companies are doing the right thing, and they're trying to get chemicals that break down after just 1 year. So they're taking away a facet of that was horrible, where you get 7 years of concentration buildup. So that's been a huge help. They're also trying to develop strains of corn and soybeans that could get away from even having neonics, so that instead they're doing plants that now are releasing alarm chemical pheromones as just the plant itself smells like an aphid being attacked or smells like a cutworm being attacked. So those bugs don't want to feed on corn and soybeans because it sounds like their buddies are being killed over. Not sounds, smells like their buddies are being killed. So I don't believe those plants have been released yet to farmers, but I know that's some of the research going on so that they can take the evolution of insecticides to the next level and get away from neonicotinoids, because neonics are actually a derivative of nicotine. And for you and me, it goes ahead and affects our nervous system in such a way that it Well, we all know that smoking is addictive and
Right.
it stimulates you in certain ways and stuff. Insects have a different nervous system than you and I. In insects, the neonics or nicotine actually just turns off their nervous system. So it doesn't like dissolve the insect, it doesn't burn it up, it doesn't kill it in, other ways that you might think chemicals would. When the chemical infects an insect to a certain point, it just turns off its nervous system and it drops to the ground and dies. Well, in honeybees, this is where we get into the whole talk of colony collapse disorder. And basically they term the colony collapse disorder is where you get to some point where bees fly away from the colony and they can't figure out how to track their way back to the colony. So you lose that whole adult generation there. Right. Well, when you lose that adult generation, bees have this natural habit of they'll move teenage bees that shouldn't be doing the job into that job and they'll send them out. Well, those bees also don't return to the colony. And over the course of a few days, your colony just moves out of a hive for no apparent reason. And it's because they got to a tipping point where they weren't ever able to track back to their colony. Bees have nerve bundles down their body that do specific jobs. And one of the nerve bundles' jobs is being able to orient and track their way back to the colony. So what science in other countries have pointed out, or university studies that have not had funding in part by chemical companies, and I'm not dissing anybody.
Nope, I get it.
But they pointed out that basically the neonics get to a point that it damages the bees' ability to track back to their colony and it cleans out the colony. Okay. And that's where colony collapse disorder really comes from. You have some studies that'll say, no, it's really varroa mites, it's really disease that does colony collapse. But then you get to a factor of the same diseases that kill honeybees aren't present in bumblebee colonies, and bumblebees don't have mites in them. But they suffer from colony collapse disorder. So if the two smoking guns that they say could also be colony collapse disorder aren't even present in this other species, but it suffers from colony collapse the same way honeybees do, how could it be those smoking guns? And then you jump over to the really big one. Over in Australia, they still don't have the varroa mite, which is the big smoking gun they say carries these diseases and causes colony collapse. They still suffer from colony collapse in Australia, where varroa mites aren't even present. So again, you've got this. Well, how the heck could that be present? Right. And they've actually seen colony collapse basically go away in areas of the world where they've gone back and illegalized neonics. Okay. So now colony collapse isn't near the problem it used to be, because again, Bayer, Monsanto, and the other chemical companies, they're doing the right thing by reducing the problems.
Okay.
So we're getting there.
And so I know a lot of these ag organizations have always been also, you go to farm shows stuff, they'll bring out the pollinator plants and things like that and plant these. Are those helping at least give back a little bit of what maybe they might be losing out along a fence line or something like that?
Definitely if there's ditches that are in, anywhere, not just Iowa, because I've seen Iowa take the major interstates and try to plant them and stuff with them. That's going to keep you from being in a desert zone where maybe you have 20 miles this way and 20 miles that way that there's not a single blooming plant that the bees could even feed on. That'll at least alleviate that problem. There's a program that's pollinator strips that are out there, and it shows real promise for first-year colonies, but I really want to see the data on multiple-year colonies because coming from an experienced beekeeper, myself, and every other commercial guy out there, your bees don't do good if you stick them in the middle of corn and soybean year after year after year. You can take brand new colonies and you can stick them in the most wretched area possible and they'll do great because it's all brand new comb that they're building that first year. It's all fresh bees, that's all disease free, it's everything. But once they get on to year number 2, number 3 with that old comb, you really got to have them in nicer environments for them to do well.
Don't forget to check out our previous video with Jason Foley and learning about Honey Hollow Apiary Gardens and their business and also the work being done by the Iowa Honey Producers Association. You can find that on our YouTube channel or on the May 31st episode of Ag Matters PM. For the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, I'm Dustin Huffman. Now, let's take a look at that ag weather outlook. Well, the day was beautiful here in Des Moines, and we saw a lot of sunny skies, and I even got the motorcycle out today. That's how nice of a day it was. However, it looks like this might be the last nice day on tap for at least the next couple, as rain is going to move back into our forecast. Where is it going to be and how much of it's going to be coming? Well, we have to ask the National Weather Service. We saw sunny skies statewide. Clouds starting to move in, though, on the northwest side of the state. And we saw highs of the mid-70s to the low 80s. Now, tonight, clouds are going to continue to build in, and we're going to see increasing chances of showers and thunderstorms starting in the northwest and then making their way across the state. Lows will be in the 50s. And then tomorrow, we'll see mostly cloudy skies with chances of showers and thunderstorms statewide, better chances to the west. And we'll see highs in the low 70s to around 80. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map, we'll see that tomorrow Cherokee will have rain likely and a high of 71. Shenandoah will have mostly cloudy skies and a chance of showers and storms and a high of 75. Des Moines will see mostly cloudy skies, a chance of showers and storms and 79. Waterloo, chance of rain 72. Albia, slight chance of showers and storms and a high of 80. Clinton, also slight chance of showers and storms and a high of 76. For more detailed forecasts in your area, check with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook. And with that, we are at the end of this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and the YouTube channel, where you can like and subscribe and get notifications when we post video content and every day's episode of Ag Matters PM. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith and Avery Haskell, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.